Okay, so today we're jumping right into the book of Jeremiah, specifically chapter 32. And let me tell you, the scene is intense. Jerusalem is completely surrounded by the Babylonian army, the siege is getting tighter by the day, and right in the middle of all this chaos, the prophet Jeremiah gets a message from God, a message that explains exactly why all of this is happening. So this is how the message begins, with this absolutely foundational statement. It's a declaration of total power, right? A reminder that God is in control of everything, all nations, all people, all of history. It's really a rhetorical question aimed right at the heart of human doubt, asking, is anything really beyond my power?
But here's the wild twist. You'd think a statement about ultimate power would lead to, a miraculous rescue. But nope. Instead, that very power is about to be used to carry out a sentence. It's a chilling pivot from omnipotence to judgment.
So, what is this verdict? Well, the text doesn't beat around the bush at all. It lays out a crystal clear, direct, and, frankly, shocking decision about what's going to happen to the city of Jerusalem. Now, the key thing to catch here is that the fall of Jerusalem isn't presented as just some random act of war. No, it's framed as a deliberate divine act. God himself is giving the city to Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian king. The prophecy is making a direct claim about the historical events that would soon unfold in 586 BC. And here, you can see the connections spelled out. The prophecy says the city will be burned. History tells us that in 586 BC, the Babylonians did exactly that. This really sets up the core idea of the whole passage, a direct line of cause and effect between what the people did and what happened to them. So, the obvious question is, what did they do? Well, the text doesn't just hand down a sentence. It basically presents the entire case for the prosecution. It lays out a long, detailed history of rebellion that it claims is the justification for this whole verdict. You see, this judgment wasn't about one single mistake. The text describes a pattern of what it calls generational sin that stretched over 400 years. It's saying that from the moment Jerusalem became the capital, it was a source of continual provocation. So this wasn't a sudden punishment. It was the result of centuries of behavior. This verse just drives that point home. That phrase, from their youth, is so important because it emphasizes this wasn't a recent problem. It portrays this rebellion as something deep-seated, something persistent and systemic that's been woven into the nation's story from the very beginning.
And it was a deliberate choice. I mean, this metaphor of turning their back and not the face is incredibly powerful. It's not about being ignorant, it's about active rejection. It's like someone is right there trying to teach you something over and over, and you just deliberately turn your back on them. You refuse to listen. But who exactly are they?
And this right here is such a crucial part of the indictment. The blame isn't just dumped on one bad king or a few corrupt priests. The text is very, very clear that the responsibility for this mess is shared by everyone. I mean, look at this. The text just goes right down the list, systematically calling out every single level of society. The political leaders, the religious authorities, and even the regular people living in the city. Nobody is exempt. This is being presented as a total societal failure.
Okay, now the case is really building to its climax. We're moving away from the general history of rebellion and into very specific profane acts. The charges are now focused on the single most sacred place in the entire kingdom, the temple itself. This is a truly shocking charge. The word abominations here is referring to idols, statues, and symbols of foreign gods. The accusation is that the people brought their pagan worship practices right into the temple, the very house dedicated to their god. It was the ultimate act of betrayal and defilement. But if you can believe it, there was one final charge, an act so horrific that the text presents it as the absolute, final justification for the city's complete destruction, something that went way beyond idolatry into something much, much darker. So, the scene for this final crime is set in a very specific place, the Valley of Hinnom. It's this area just outside the city walls that would later become infamous, a symbol for judgment itself. And here it is, the final climactic charge. Child sacrifice, building altars to foreign gods and sacrificing their own children in the fire to a god named Moloch. And what's truly stunning is the text's own reaction to this. That phrase, which I commanded them not, neither came it into my mind. It's a way of saying this act was so utterly alien, so unthinkable, that it was the absolute final straw. So we're left with this verdict of utter destruction.
rooted in a centuries-long history of rebellion that, in the end, involved everyone, from the king on the throne to the average person on the street. It all culminated in acts of unimaginable horror. And it leaves us with this huge, profound question. In the face of a total societal collapse like that, where does a community even begin to turn when every single part of it is held accountable?